How to grow Chinese ground orchid. When considering orchids, numerous plant specialists consider the tropical Dendrobiums, Vandas or Oncidiums that grow inside and require extensive consideration. However, when planting your home garden, keep in mind about solid garden orchids, the ones that grow outside in the ground and blossom dependably in spring. These are likewise called earthly orchids, which means in the ground. Solid orchid care is shockingly simple, and growing strong orchids offers a scope of sprout hues to put on a show in the spring garden. Growing tough orchids isn't entangled. They grow from rhizomes planted in the part sun, part shade cultivate in USDA Zones 6-9. Blossoms of solid orchid plants go in shades of white, pink, purple and red. Tough Chinese ground orchid. Additionally called the strong Chinese ground orchid, and naturally known as Bletilla striata, the plant is local to China and Japan. English nursery workers started growing tough orchids in the 1990s, and strong garden orchids currently joyfully exist in many United States gardens. Tough garden orchid B striata, considered the hardest, was developed first. At that point came cultivars Gotemba Stripes and Kuchibeni, both of the Japanese sorts. Kuchibeni has two-tone blossoms, while Gotemba Stripes has striped foliage. How to grow hardy garden orchids. Growing strong orchids here in the United States require a rich, loamy soil like that of the forest floor. Morning sun and evening shade is perfect when growing strong orchids. Some need the winter chill to blossom appropriately and may take 2 or 3 years to display ideal sprout quality. Strong orchid plants have shallow roots, so take care while doing the weeding. That is an essential piece of tough orchid care. Grow plant orchids in soil that channels well. A portion of these plants don't care for reliably sodden soil, for example, the upland species, so sharp waste is required. Others of the wetland species favor clammy soil. Make certain to check strong garden orchid data for the sort you're growing. Alter the dirt with all-around treated the soil material before planting, if necessary. Limit preparation when growing. This example. Deadhead spent sprouts with the goal that vitality is coordinated to the roots for 1 year from now's blossoms. Since you've found out about strong garden orchids, incorporate them in the part sunflower bed. You can tell everybody that your green thumb produces orchids, solid garden orchids, that is. Were at one time the space of claim to fame specialists with nurseries, yet they're ending up progressively regular in the normal cultivator's home. They're generally simple to grow as long as you locate the correct conditions. However, pretty much every grower gets apprehensive at the possibility of repotting an orchid. Orchids don't grow like different houseplants. Rather than putting out roots in a pot of soil, they exist in a compartment of free materials, for example, bark, charcoal and greenery. This can be the most finicky time for an orchid plant since they are vulnerable to infection and you'll be uncovering the roots. Yet with a little consideration, you can be repotting orchid plants with incredible outcomes. Repotting orchid plants. When to repot orchids is essential so as to guarantee achievement. There are 2 noteworthy approaches to tell if your orchid needs repotting. To start with, if it's growing out of its compartment, you may see white roots flying out between the spaces in the holder. This is a certain sign that your plant has outgrown its home. The other explanation behind orchid repotting is the point at which the preparing medium starts to separate. Orchids grow in an exceptionally stout medium, and when it separates into little bits, it won't deplete also. Change out the medium to give your orchids underlying foundations the air they require. The other portion of realizing when to repot orchids is picking the season that is best for the plant. In the event that you have a cattleya or other orchid that produces pseudobulbs, Report it directly in the wake of blooming and before the roots start to grow. For every other orchid, you can report them whenever, albeit irritating the plant when it's in bloom is generally not a smart thought. Pick another pot that is an inch or two bigger than the one preceding. The particular orchid grower has gaps all around the surface to build the air dissemination in the roots, yet you can utilize a conventional earthenware pot too. Put your orchid preparing blend into an expansive bowl and cover it with bubbling water. Enable the water to cool to room temperature. At that point deplete the preparing blend. A standout amongst the most imperative things to find out about how to report an orchid is that they are extremely delicate with regards to microscopic organisms and germs. Make an answer to some family unit feed in 1 gallon of water. Absorb the grower this and in addition any tools you use. Wash your hands previously you continue. Tenderly draw the pot far from the plant and wash off the roots. Utilize sharp scissors to remove any darker or decaying roots. Fill the new grower with a doused preparing medium and place the plant so the base is comfortable top of the medium. Utilize a chopstick to help drive bits of planting medium in the middle of the roots. Keep the orchid moistened for no less than 7 days until the point that the new roots start to show up. Repotting an orchid doesn't need to threaten. Simply focus on the planning and guarantee appropriate growing conditions so your dearest plant will flourish.